We all know the story of the 4 hippos that conquered a continent. They're the cocaine hippos, the biological legacy of the world's most notorious drug lord. But while those 4 animals were breeding in the shadows of the Magdalena River, a much larger, stranger mystery was unfolding behind the reinforced gates of Hacienda Nápoles. To the world, the hippos are the headline, but to those who were there, they were just the tip of a very dangerous iceberg. In the early 1980s, Pablo Escobar didn't just want a farm. He wanted a private kingdom that defied the laws of nature and the laws of man. He spent millions of dollars to smuggle over 1,200 exotic animals from every corner of the globe into the heart of the Colombian jungle. We're talking about elephants from Africa, rhinoceroses from the plains, zebras, kangaroos, and even rare pink dolphins from the Amazon. He was playing God with $1 billion budget. But when the king of cocaine fell in a hail of bullets on a Medellin rooftop in 1993, Private Noah's Ark didn't just disappear. While the world watched the manhunt for the man, nobody was looking at the monsters he left behind. Creatures that were never meant to see a South American sunset. To understand the sheer scale of this disaster, you have to understand the ego driving it. At his peak, Escobar was worth an estimated $30 billion. He had so much cash that he was losing $2 billion a year just to rats eating the bills in his warehouses. Like many men with infinite money and zero oversight, he turned to vanity projects to immortalize his name. He didn't use a professional wildlife transport service. He used his own drug fleet. The same planes that carried white powder into Miami returned to Medellin carrying crates of sedated, confused wildlife. It was a logistical nightmare that bordered on the absurd. Imagine landing a Boeing 727 on a hidden jungle strip in the middle of the night, only to have a half-awake, 5-ton African elephant stumble out of the cargo hold. Escobar's top henchmen once claimed they bypassed customs simply by bribing officials and telling them the animals were just special breeds of Colombian cattle that looked a bit different. Escobar opened the gates of his estate to the public for free, turning his private zoo into a propaganda tool. For the poor families of Puerto Triunfo, this wasn't a crime scene, it was a miracle. He was the Robin Hood who brought the Serengeti to their backyard. But behind the smiling photos and the families eating ice cream, the animals were living in a ticking time bomb. They were entirely dependent on a man whose life was marked for an early end. And when that end came, the music stopped. December 2nd, 1993. The king is dead. Within hours of the shootout, the Colombian government seized Hacienda Nápoles. They weren't there for the animals. They were looking for ledgers, guns, and la calita, the legendary hidden walls of cash. In the chaos of the transition, the animals became an afterthought. Nobody had a budget for 1,200 exotic mouths. The electricity was cut, meaning the electric fences went dead. Specialized feeders and veterinarians fled for their lives, fearing they'd be arrested as accomplices. The animals were suddenly trapped in cages in 90-degree humidity with no food, no water, and no escape. This is where the story turns into a gothic horror. Desperate for any remaining value, former employees and local looters began liquidating the estate. Exotic birds, monkeys, and rare reptiles vanished into the black market, sold to other rising traffickers who wanted to dress like Escobar and live like him. But the big ones, the apex predators, couldn't be carried away in a truck. They began to starve. Reports from the mid-90s are truly haunting. Residents near the estate reported hearing the roars of hungry lions and tigers echoing through the jungle at night, a sound so out of place in the Colombian mountains that it felt like the world was ending. The government eventually realized they had a PR nightmare on their hands. If the animals died of starvation on the evening news, the victory over the Medellin cartel would look like a massacre of innocents. They had to act, but moving a giraffe isn't as easy as moving a prisoner. Between 1994 and 1998, a massive, desperate relocation effort began. Most of the charismatic animals, the zebras and the elephants, were drugged and shipped to public zoos. But not every animal was a candidate for a new home. The rhinoceroses, stressed by the humidity and the noise of the military occupation, succumbed to illness. Some say they simply gave up. And then, there's the story that reveals the bizarre, twisted reality of the post-Escobar era, the taxidermy tragedy. In the mid-2000s, long after the zoo was officially cleared, a stray hippo died near the ranch. The locals, seeing the tourism value of the animals, tried to preserve it to keep the Escobar magic alive. But they had no professional taxidermy tools. When it came time to replace the eyes, they didn't have glass spheres. They used blue ping pong balls. This blue-eyed monster became a symbol of the entire estate. A cheap, bizarre imitation of the glory days, rotting from the inside out, held together by local legends and makeshift repairs. Today, the ruins of Escobar's empire have been sanitized and sold back to us. Hacienda Nápoles is now a massive, family-friendly theme park. They've kept the hippos as the main attraction, but they've also kept one very special resident, Vanessa. Vanessa is a female hippo who was rejected by her herd years ago. Instead of joining the invasive wild hippos in the river, she stayed behind. She lives in her own pond, responds to her name like a 3,000-pound dog, and eats carrots from the hands of tourists. Vanessa is the good hippo. She's the face of the park, the mascot that makes everyone feel safe. But scientists warn that she represents a dangerous lie. She makes these animals look like pets, while her cousins in the river are destroying the ecosystem, outcompeting native manatees and terrorizing local fishermen. The theme park celebrates the miracle of these animals, but the environment is paying a brutal price for the myth. Pablo Escobar's zoo was never about conservation or a love for nature. It was about power, ego, and the ability to command the world to fit his vision. 30 years later, that power hasn't been fully extinguished. While the giraffes are in public zoos and the tigers are long gone, the ghost zoo lives on in the DNA of the Colombian landscape. Every time a hippo tramples a native crop or a fisherman sees a shadow in the Magdalena River that shouldn't be there, the ghost of Escobar wins again. The cages at Hacienda Nápoles are empty, but the wild is now full of his mistakes. We wanted a paradise, but we created a biological war zone that we may never be able to retreat from. So, I have to ask, what do you think should have happened? Should the government have leveled Hacienda Nápoles to the ground and erased every trace of the drug lord? Or is the theme park a necessary way to fund the massive cleanup of his mess? It's a debate that divides Colombia to this day. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see how this disaster compares to the python invasion of the Florida Everglades, another case of humans playing God with nature, click the video on your screen right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories where the truth is far more unbelievable than fiction.